Hi, everyone, and welcome to Nom Watch Review, part of the Nom Talk network. On this show, we review the latest film drop or a throwback celebrating a milestone while eating and drinking our favorite movie snacks. Don't forget, we also have merch. You can find our shop in the About section on Twitch, and subscribers to our Twitch channel get discounts. I'm your host for tonight, Jennifer, and I am enjoying jicama, which is fresh out of the refrigerator because it's very warm. And because our movies tonight take place in New York, it's the wrong part of New York, a Long Island iced tea from Cutwater, which is 13%. So I will be going very slow on that. And of course, water because we need to stay hydrated because it's like 900 degrees. And may I introduce my guests for tonight? I have Lonny, I have Mikey, and I have Derrick with me tonight. So I'm very excited. I love this panel tonight. Derrick, what are you snacking on?
Yeah, I love this plan. I'm excited to be a part of it. This is my personalized popcorn bucket, and I'm eating some healthy popcorn in here. And then I'm drinking a Celsius, but it is 1,000 degrees, so I put some ice in there to chill it, so it stays cool in this very hot room.
Nice. And Mikey, how about you? What are you snacking on and drinking tonight?
Well, I got a leftover pizza. It's not New York style, but it's just, it's a DiGiorno's, whatever. And did you know today was also free donut day? Apparently, donut day. So I
Oh,
had
I
a
heard about
donut.
that.
Yeah, I had a donut earlier, and I'm just finishing off my tea from Dunkin'. So yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Mhm.
And how about you, Lonny? What are you snacking on and drinking tonight?
Right now I'm finishing up my Frappuccino because I needed a little caffeine. And just some barbecue chips. So my
Nice.
favorite spicy barbecue chips.
Very good. I love some barbecue chips, but I can't eat a bag of them no matter what size. It's just a single serving for me, so I have to not have those in the house. All right. Well, I'm really excited to have you all with me tonight. Before we get started, we are fundraising for the Trevor Project still, and that especially right now during Pride Month, a really important charity to give to a great cause, and they do a lot of important work. So tonight, now we're on to the show. We are going to be talking about two movies celebrating milestones. One that is a 40-year-old milestone. I like to remind my sister this film is only slightly older than her. It's 40 years old this year. Ghostbusters, a 1984 classic that I made my dad go see in the theater with me 10 times. And then 5 years later, along came the sequel, Ghostbusters II. We will be discussing both of these films and what we think of them standalone and in comparison to each other. So, we, as you will see from our popcorn bucket ratings, have very interesting and varied opinions on these films. Let's talk about how we felt about the first Ghostbusters. We're going to start with the original, the classic, the 1984. Mikey, how did you feel leading up to the first time you saw this film, and when did you first see it?
I saw it on when I was a kid, around maybe 10 or 11, and it was saw it on tape. And I just played the hell out of that tape. I just watched it over and over again. I loved it. I'd known about Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd because I was a comedy nerd and I knew about Saturday Night Live. Um, so this was like my first introduction to Harold Ramis because I hadn't seen Stripes yet or anything like that. So, and I liked the three of them together, and Ernie Hudson really filled out the team. And like I said, I just played the hell out of the tape. I just wore it down because I loved it so much. It was my favorite comedy at the time. So yeah.
Awesome. How about you, Lonny?
Wow. I was 5, I think, when the first one came out, and my uncle brought me to go see it. And I remember I grew up kind of the same way, just aware of comedy, aware of Saturday Night Live. I always loved Caddyshack, so Bill Murray was always one of those that was always, top of the list for me. And yeah, this was just kind of a formidable movie in my life as a kid. I remember maybe when I was 6 or 7, my mom made me a Ghostbusters costume, and I did that for Halloween one year.
Awesome. And Derrick, what's your first memory, the first time you saw Ghostbusters? How'd you feel going into it?
Yeah, I think very similar stories. I saw it when I was young, and just something about everything and all of it that came together, whether it was just kind of enjoying some of the childish comedy, but then also just really enjoying the visuals. I was just such a huge fan of this movie. I can't remember a time that this movie hasn't been in my life. So I think as far back as my memories can go with like actual collected memories, I think Ghostbusters is very much a part of them. I did see it as a kid, and it just left a formidable impression on me, and it's never left my mind since. And I've been a huge Ghostbusters fan ever since. I watched the cartoon. I had all the toys. I'm pretty sure I was a Ghostbuster at one point. I know. I think I was a Slimer at one point for Halloween. So I've always been a very, very huge fan of the film, and I saw it very young, and it's never left my heart. So
I was 9 when it came out, and my mom was 7 months pregnant with my sister, and we live in the Inland Empire. It's 100 degrees out. She was cranky, so my dad and I took every opportunity to go to the air-conditioned movie theater away from the cranky lady and watch this movie, and I just was in love with it. And I have always been interested in the paranormal, and when we did Frozen Empire, I dropped a little tidbit at the end of the stream, and I got yelled at for not starting with it. So yes, I ran a paranormal investigation team for 10 years. I am a ghost hunter, not a Ghostbuster. Here's one of our investigation tools that we actually use. This is a K2 meter. It's an EMF detector. Obviously it's going to go a little crazy because I'm sitting in front of all this equipment, but yeah, so this movie still to me is just it's almost personal, because Ray, I think, is the one I identify with the most, and also Dan Aykroyd, because Dan Aykroyd's family goes way, way, way back in the supernatural and the paranormal. His grandparents were part of the spiritualism movement in the early 1900s. So it's a movie that always really spoke to me, and it's just so fun and funny. And Stripes and Caddyshack, all those. I grew up. My parents let me watch pretty much anything that wasn't a horror movie. So I watched Stripes. That's the facts, Jack. I would go around saying these little things. So that kind of comedy is what I grew up with. And we'll move into our popcorn buckets. I mean, this movie is very nostalgic for me also, and I gave it 5 popcorn buckets. I will drop everything and watch this movie.
Same.
It stands up so well. The jokes, I mean, who doesn't go around every so often and just go, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria, There's very few movies I probably know word for word. It's like this and Silence of the Lambs and Baby Driver. It's a random mix of movies, but this is definitely one of them. So Lonny, tell me about your popcorn rating and why you rated this movie that way.
I rated it a 4.5. It's not perfect for me, but it is it's formidable. It's so important to my life. Very similar to you. It's a movie that got me into into more comedy. It got me into my interest in the supernatural. This and Star Wars pretty much were my start into cosplay, even as a kid, wanting to dress up like characters from something. These were kind of the start of that for me. So yeah, 4.5. There's I almost want to rate it a perfect film, but it's not quite there for me. But it's just so quotable. It's even in my opinion, just because of the some of the practical effects they used, that still holds up really well. It's a movie that I can, whenever it's on, I'll just pick up and watch it for wherever it is. If it's on TV or somebody else is watching it or whatever, I will stop what I'm doing and finish the movie.
Awesome. Sorry, I was trying to get the chat to come up on my tablet on Twitch, and I'm having failures over here. Derrick, how about for you? What's your popcorn rating, and why did you rate it that way?
Yeah, I think that this is probably a perfect movie for me, and I don't say that very often, but I think there is a cultural relevance, just a beautiful encapsulation of comedy, and these guys in particular. I think this genuinely captures all of the things that they do very well. Not just their chemistry on screen, but what they do behind the scenes. And I think it really demonstrates how incredible of a writer, comedy writer, Harold Ramis actually is. Because, just slight history, but he did kind of hijack this movie from Dan Aykroyd because whatever he pitched was basically unmakeable. And so most of the things that you love about Ghostbusters are really built from him and what he's done and what he did to the script and just him kind of being at the helm. And then you've got Ivan Reitman just directing the hell out of this movie and really tapping into and allowing these guys to just cook, for lack of a better term. I mean, they just go off, and it's the best of all of their sensibilities, and they just make magic together. And I agree, the practical effects 100% still hold up. I will always argue for practical effects over CGI green screens, and you can tell, I mean, 40 years later, and it still looks great. I think it has one of the best openings of any film. And it just, there's no lull. I think one of the things I really enjoy about this movie and why I would consider it a perfect film is there is no point, like we talk about when the movie's on, we just jump in and watch it. That's because there's really no bad scene to watch. Wherever you're going to tune in,
Yeah.
you're like, oh yeah, this is a good scene. All of them are good scenes. There's no scene where you're like, oh, I'm going to fast forward this, because it just moves. And everybody is great. All of the scenes are great. And so it doesn't matter where you start the movie, you're probably going to finish it because it really is just that good. So yeah, this is a 5 out of 5, and I don't give those out very often.
No, we know I give them out like candy on Halloween, but it's okay. I mean them all with my heart. And how about for you, Mikey?
I gave it a 4.5. Almost perfect movie also. This movie hit me at a time when I was just like getting into movies, so it had so many different things going for it. It was a little bit scary, it was like so funny, the end scene was pretty action packed. I never knew a movie that could have all these things in it, and so when I saw it as a kid, I was just blown away by it. I thought it was like I said, it was the best thing I've ever seen at the time.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that was the same thing too. Just such a great movie. And the writing and I was 8, so I didn't, or no, 9. I didn't know that then what I know about movies now. So it was just all magic, right? You're just like, oh,
Yeah.
and just scary enough for me. That's just scary enough for me now. Honestly, I'm such a chicken, but no. And the story and the pacing. So yeah, it's just such a great, perfectly, it moves along great. It was such a big success. It's still such a classic today. And, they've even springboarded into this new, we won't talk about the one in the middle that happened, but we'll talk about, the new ones came along, the Afterlife and Frozen Empire. And the Afterlife was handled with such beautiful care by Jason Reitman. It was great to see that. And they decided, the first one here in 1984 was such a success. In 1989, they made a sequel. I'm pretty sure I saw it in the theater once. I did not go see this one 10 times in the theater. And I gave it 2.5 popcorn buckets because I think the most appropriate scene in that movie was the birthday party scene where the kids were just like,
Yeah, that's great.
man. In a way, we had all kind of moved on. We had that fond memory, but the film was not. It didn't really live up to it. So I gave it 2.5 popcorn buckets because it just wasn't the same. Lonnie, what were your feelings on the second movie?
I ranked it a little bit higher. I ranked it at like a 3.5. Because this movie was on TV all the time when I was later kid to early teens. Comedy Central played this movie ad nauseum, so it was always on, and it's another one that's got a lot of quotable stuff in it, at least for me. But I feel like when they made this movie and some of the jokes about how the Ghostbusters had fallen out of favor kind of makes sense when you look at how the movie was made and everything too. Like it has that almost that meta feel of, like you said about the birthday party. It's like, yay, who are these guys? Who are these clowns? You were someone 5 years ago, but now what are you? What have you done? What have you done for me today? And a lot of the movie like feels like that as it kind of progresses on, and it does have a lot of just great silliness to it, but it just doesn't have anywhere near the comedy banter, the structure, the movement, like everything about the second movie was just kind of half thrusters of what the first one was.
Yeah, definitely. Derrick, what was your rating on the second one?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with Lonnie, but I think those things have a much deeper effect on me and lower the rating significantly. Ghostbusters 2 is basically Ghostbusters 1 for children, and it, beat for beat, shot for shot, essentially. But all of the cynicism, all of the adult comedy, all of the adult themes, everything that really imbues and causes Ghostbusters to survive over those 40 years that we still think back on it fondly today. All of that is removed in lieu of trying to create a family-friendly version of Ghostbusters, and that's kind of what Ghostbusters 2 is. And when you strip it of everything that makes it great, you're left with just kind of this bare bones, silly, ridiculous comedy that feels studio. You feel the studio involvement in this. You feel it being almost force fed to the actors, really. And when you watch Ghostbusters and everything feels natural. It feels just we're organic. Everything is just moving. And then you get to Ghostbusters 2, and you could just feel somebody feeding them lines and feeding them chemistry and feeding them scenes, and it just doesn't feel as organic as it should. And that's because it's dumbed down. It really is Ghostbusters for idiots. And I hate this. I hate to be so awful about it, but like I recently rewatched it and I hadn't revisited it in a really long time. And revisiting it, I was like, wow, this is actually really hard to get through. Especially because it really is just the shot for shot. I mean, everything is telegraphed, and it's just everything is subpar. Sans, Rick Moranis, and Peter Nichols, MVPs. That's where my 2.5 stars come from, because they are the champions of this movie.
Yeah, I agree. Like it felt like the comedy was dumbed down to the point where they just weren't free to be themselves. They weren't free to be as funny as they were in the first one. The first one, the banter just seemed like these guys who had known each other for decades talking to each other like friends. The second one, just like so many of the lines, especially Bill Murray stuff. Like they were trying to Bill Murray. And
yeah, that's good. That's good.
It falls flat in a lot of stuff because you can tell
and,
his heart's not in it either.
Yeah, and to that point, you can tell even in some of the side characters, but particularly in the main cast, they're trying to mimic the cartoon. That the whole movie is trying to mimic the cartoon that was a huge success, and it was huge with kids, which is why they wanted the sequel to be dumbed down, because they want to sell toys. They want to, but like even Janine, like she is all of a sudden her cartoon counterpart. She doesn't look anything like or act anything like who she was in Ghostbusters, because she is literally the cartoon counterpart. And all of them do that, which is why you get Bill Murray, who feels stifled. He feels trapped. He doesn't feel like he's actually being the Bill Murray that we've all come to love. So yeah, I think the cartoon had a big effect on it as well.
And they had to bring Slammer back because he was such a hit in the cartoon.
Yeah.
So they had to bring him back. He has no reason to be back in the second movie.
No.
Yeah.
No, and it felt like there was so much improv in the first movie, and they were like, okay, just go do the scene, and they were allowed to be themselves. Whereas they were like, no, you have to stick to what we wrote for you. And you could tell Bill Murray just was, he especially felt like he had been reined in so much.
Yeah.
How about for you, Mikey? What was your popcorn rating for the second one?
I gave it a 3. So at this point, I'd watched the cartoon. I loved the first one, and then when I saw this one, this is the first time I was like I didn't automatically love it. Like I was actually let down a little bit, especially the ending. I didn't think the ending was great, and so um, that kind of kind of stunned me when I was a kid. I was like, oh, geez, it's not as good. And then, but I liked it enough that when I was a kid, we would go on road trips, and what I did was I recorded it on a little cassette tape, just the audio, and I would play that in the road trips just because I wanted to hear it and stuff. And I also liked the soundtrack at the time. I thought the soundtrack was really good. But yeah, it definitely fell off for me. And at the time I didn't know anything about comedy writing and stuff like that. Like I was a comedy nerd, but like I just like the seeing them perform and stuff like that. So I didn't know behind the scenes kind of things. And as I got older, I found out like why it was why Bill Murray was not happy with it and stuff like that. And it just shows, and I watch it now and I'm just like, oh yeah, it just doesn't feel as good. Like I don't have the good feeling I had when I watched the movie, the first one, or even the cartoon. Like the cartoon was like, I felt good watching that. I loved watching that on Saturday mornings. But yeah, this one, it was a Ghostbusters movie, and I got to see more Ghostbusters and another adventure, but that's it. Like it didn't move me anyway, just like, oh, okay, another adventure.
Yeah. So I'm going to look in the chat real quick now that I've figured out how to operate my tablet. We have Q Ball in the chat. Always great to see Q. We've got Heartless. Katie's in the chat. And I was going to say, oh, MJ. No, that's Mikey. Hi, Mikey. It's been a long day.
That's me.
It's been a very warm day. Let's see. And then Q Ball says, to me, both movies are classics. And the first one is a 5 of 5 with great acting. And every line is a meme. And it's the introduction of Slimer and the Marshmallow Man. The second one is a 4 of 5. The acting was good, but they were trying to make it bigger with the effects. And the jokes are just corny as hell. Yes, they are. But it's a good movie to watch if you're bored. Eric, I swear. Before we get to what Eric redeemed, Eric also says Happy Pride, y'all. Happy Pride, everybody. Yes, that is.
Yes.
I'm wearing my
Pride.
my shirt. One of them. I have quite a collection. I have amassed, but it's one of my favorites here. I got last year. So Heartless has redeemed Sing Mode. So I'm trying to think of what we can talk about with Sing Mode. Let's talk about some of we'll get there. Don't worry, Eric. I see you here. We are going to talk about some of the supporting characters because there's a lot that are in the first movie and the second movie. Sigourney Weaver, she's a big one. Not Harold Ramis, he's a main character. Rick Moranis, one of his, in my opinion, finest roles, short of Spaceballs, I think. So let's trying to get a song in my head so I can do this.
Just sing the Bill Murray interjection. So be good, for goodness sake.
I'm trying to get the tune.
Somebody's coming.
Ghostbusters. Yeah.
There's your song, Eric. I got you.
Oh, he also redeemed Hydrate and Take a Bite and Talking. Eric is celebrating Pride by redeeming everything.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna take a bite. Lots of crunchy bites for you, Eric. Take a sip, and since I'm going to have to sing, I might as well have some of this iced tea. Long Island iced tea from Cutwater, by the way, guys. Put it over ice. Yeah, no, that was a good interjection there. I like that singing. I was trying to figure out how to put it to the tune of Ghostbusters. I was trying to figure out how to talk about Sigourney Weaver to the tune of Ghostbusters. No, she's one of my favorite actresses, and I love her so very much in this role.
Yeah.
In the first one, I mean, she's good in the second one too. Let's face it. But as Zool, the scene where Venkman goes to her apartment and expecting Dana, and she is Zool in the red dress. I'm going to cosplay that one day. That is on my list of cosplay. and it's just such an iconic scene. And just I mean all of it. Her straight man to Bill Murray was so fun, and that had to be such a fun role to play. And to be such a straight-laced person dealing with the paranormal and having dealt with people in that position, not anyone whose fridge is doing that, because that would have been a story to tell. Let me tell you, never had anything exciting like that happen. But her character, I loved her in this role. I love the character of Dana is just a lot of fun. And then Lewis Tully. Is there a more lovable character in this?
So good.
Yeah.
And I have a special place in my heart for Rick Moranis still to this day, even though he's retired from Hollywood, and I support that choice for him 100%. Katie, she says, listen, I'm Zool for about 7 days every month, and I don't have much stress. I love you, Katie. I love you so much. So much.
I agree though. They have such tremendous chemistry in the first one, and the second one commits one of my least favorite tropes in all of cinema, which is character growth equals divorce and or separation just to bring them back. It is one of my least favorite film tropes of all time. Like you see it in franchises consistently, and it irritates the hell out of me because there's no reason for them to be apart. You're just going to bring them back together, so just let them start together. They can have problems. They can be on the rocks. Their relationship can be a little rocky. That's perfectly fine. But this whole we haven't spoken in 5 years, because that's character growth. I hate it. I hate it so much, and it irritates the hell out of me, especially because Bill Murray and Sigourney Weaver have exquisite chemistry in this movie. Like, they are so good together. You're absolutely right. The straight woman to the quirky dude is just so beautifully captured. And she does a great job in that first film. And then, Lewis Tully, Rick Moranis, just MVP, both movies. He's so funny. He's so good. Like, he's a guy that just, he's a performer, I feel like, always commits and just always gives whatever it is he needs to do. So even when all of our Ghostbusters are phoning it in, that courtroom scene is actually really hard to watch. It's just not a good scene. But Lewis Tully is just absolutely murdering that scene. He is so good and so funny. And the best part of that entire scene is Bill Murray feeding him lines as he's interrogating him. It's the absolute best scene, but it's because Bill Murray finally gets to do what he does best, because Rick Moranis is fully committed to Lewis Tully, and it works really well. So,
yeah, no, I gotta say, Lewis, in the first movie especially, just the scene of him wandering around his house party, just talking about everybody's mundane financial situation, like it's the most exciting thing in the room. It's a bit that works because Rick Moranis did it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that character too.
When he busts out the chemical name for aspirin, and then I got it generic, 600 tablets. I was like, dude, just say aspirin. Go ahead, Mikey. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I was gonna jump on the Lewis Tully appreciation train here. I love that he became a Ghostbuster at the second movie. Speaking of tropes I don't like, this one, the second movie, brought in the trope that I hate, which is introducing a kid or a baby.
Yes.
To further to get into danger or further the story.
Growth.
Yeah. I hate that. That's the first time I saw that, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna hate this forever now. Like, I'm gonna look at this in movies and I'm gonna hate it, because it ruined it for me. It ruined Ghostbusters too. But yeah, I'm glad that Lewis Tully got a lot more to do in the second movie. In the first movie, I think he had some of the funniest lines and some of the funniest physical comedy also. The whole thing when he's being chased by the terror dog and stuff, I loved it.
Maybe I've got a milk bone.
Yeah. When he's backed up against the restaurant and he just screams and he goes down and everybody just like, okay, and just keep eating. I loved it. It was so funny. But yeah, a total MVP for that whole series.
Yeah. And along with you guys is kind of like things you hate about sequels and stuff like that, is like, in this one, it's like the inexplicable career changes of all of the side characters.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah, Sigourney Weaver goes from being like a classical cellist in
Mhm.
the Philharmonic to just restoring paintings at the Met for some reason.
Until her
Yeah.
baby's older.
Yeah, until her baby's older. Then she's gonna go back and play cello again. Like, I don't
By
why?
8 months, he's 8 months now, and she's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I can go back on tour with the Philharmonic." Like,
Yeah.
what?
Technically a man now. It's fine. He had 2
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, and even Louis Tully goes from being a CPA to like, oh yeah, well I studied law while I was in college too, getting my CPA. Like,
Yeah.
What did
okay.
he say something about it's night court? It's okay. I
Yeah,
went to night
yeah, I
college.
went
I
to
was
night
like,
school. Yeah, I went to night school for this. It's like, okay, Louis, fine.
that was actually I tried watching it again today, and that's when I turned it off. I'm like, I have to get cooled off and ready. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, but
I
it's
tried.
it's that thing of like they forgot who the characters were
Mhm.
between the first movie and the second movie.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
it
didn't like
feels.
his the family therapy session that that Egon was doing
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
behind the glass, and then give him a puppy. Now take the puppy away. I'm like, was the couples therapy going on with the little girl in the room too? I missed if they were in the same room. I'm like, what fresh hell is this that he has gotten himself into?
Yeah.
He ended up getting himself into the into the real world, of research, which Ray tells the problems with in the first movie. He's like, they expect results. And here we
Yeah.
have Egon in the second movie just working basically for Big Pharma to find out, how people's emotions work.
I do.
The most autistic guy in the room is trying to study how emotions work.
I do love how my favorite parts were always Egon's experiments. I thought they were just so funny just to watch him, like when he had Lewis in that thing and he was questioning him. So good. Yeah, but yeah, his experience was pretty funny.
Yeah.
I agree with you too, because I think the change in occupation and just they all go their separate ways, and then they basically this is why I say it's basically a shot for shot remake, because they just reintroduced the Ghostbusters as if we've never met them before.
Yeah.
And it just feels so, and I know they reference what they did 5 years ago or whatever, but it would make significantly more sense if Ray and Egon were still investigating the paranormal on their own, even after the Ghostbusters might have expanded or disbanded. They're still hanging on to the property and all the stuff that they're still collecting all the memorabilia. And through that, they discover the slime, and then they go get Venkman, who could be doing whatever he wants. Then they go get Winston, who, okay, what is he doing? Like, he's doing birthday parties with Ray, and then that's it. That's a full-time job. Like, we never understand he just shows back up with the group, just like he did when he shows up in the first Ghostbuster.
Yeah. And Venkman just suddenly has like a paranormal talk show, and it's like,
yeah, he's a TV psychic. Before that was really popular. Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah.
It's like it's like if it was by itself, maybe I could see a little bit more of it making sense, but it's because we had an entire first movie of getting to know these characters.
Right.
That when you get into the second one, you're just like, who are these? Like, they're the same characters, but they're not.
Yeah.
Like, within the last 5 years, they've all completely flipped into different people.
Yeah.
And it was just a really odd choice.
So Katie says, regarding Dana, legend has it she is still in debt from all of her different art degrees. Have to get all those degrees
I'm sure.
to be able to do all of that.
I'm sure she probably went to NYU for all those degrees.
Oh yeah.
It was right there. It was very convenient with all her babysitters. And then Heartless Redeemed, who's your favorite Ghostbuster from all of the movies? I'll start with you, Lonnie, since you're on my screen big right there.
Favorite Ghostbuster out of all the movies. Honestly, Egon. I always just took heart with Egon, just the autistic kid who who had very strict, smart parents who wanted him to do nothing but be smart. You know,
There you go.
I did the experimenting, the taking things apart for the sake of taking things apart. You know, like I always related well with ego, the social ineptitude, the you know, it took me a while to grow out of that, but that was me as a kid. You know, I related to Egon. Yeah, I love the joke, the little throwaway joke he does is my parents got me a slinky once and I straightened it.
That was funny. That was a good one. Mikey, how about for you? Who's your favorite Ghostbuster?
I liked Venkman. Because I just really was a big Bill Murray fan, and I wanted to be Venkman. He had all the best lines. You know, he seemed like the most put together out of all of them. He seemed like, you know, he was just cooler, I thought, at the time, you know. So I was a big Venkman fan.
Venkman was always great because he was the skeptic and the cynic. Even though
Yeah.
the stuff was right in front of his face, he always had skepticism about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
He
the
was-
scene in the
He was
beginning where
unwavering
he's
with that.
Yeah.
testing those kids with the cards.
Yeah.
And that one kid is just hitting every single card, but he's trying to pick up the girl. So he's like, bzz, 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 he's shocking that poor kid just
It's
so he
just
can
not
get the
your
girl.
lucky
Yeah.
I
day.
love it.
Yeah.
Oh God, it's so good. I will probably go with Venkman. I mean, I feel like that's kind of cheating because he really is the audience surrogate.
Mhm.
He is to Ghostbusters what Han Solo is to Star Wars. Where, you know, Star Wars, if you watch Star Wars for the first time, it doesn't make a lot of sense until Han Solo shows up because Han Solo is the most normal person in the galaxy, and suddenly he's able to kind of explain the world to us, right? Like
Yeah.
he's
Mhm.
skeptical of all the mysticism. He's skeptical of all the BS because he's been around the world. He's seen it all. All of this is garbage. All we got to do is survive. And Venkman has that sort of like cynicism to everything that's happening. He is involved in this because he wants the merchandise. Like he's in it for the money. He doesn't really
Yeah.
care about the ghosts. Until, you know, and then obviously the ghosts are real, but and Mikey, you're absolutely right. Like he's just cool. Like Bankman is just a cool dude, and he has the best lines, and he's super charming, and he's super witty. But yeah, I'd have to go with Bankman as my go-to.
He's like written as the prototypical hero of
Yeah.
80s movies. Like
Yeah.
basically, yeah. So
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
I'm a little bit torn because I like the skepticism of Ray because when I would ghost hunt, I would approach everything very skeptically, but I like the toys. I'm sorry, not Ray, but Venkman. I like the toys that Ray has. Like I want one of those little things, and I don't want the thing on my back because I really don't want to like cross streams or have nuclear reactors on my back, things like that. But I was always fascinated by stuff like this and how it worked and why it might be applicable to a paranormal investigation and what was the application. Why could a spirit manipulate this and communicate with us? Did it really work? And there's a lot of equipment out there that is bunk in my opinion, but there are just certain things, and I have seen one of these work, and I have recordings that go along with it where we had a conversation with a spirit, and you can hear it in the recordings, like chronologically. Katie has heard them. She can back me up on that. Yeah, it's so it was always interesting to me. The little gadgets and the techie part of it is very interesting to me. So I guess with like the newer two movies, I'm a little bit more of the Phoebe in that respect, that I love the gadgets and the tech and the science. Just like I'm like, how does it work? How can we show people and prove, not so much trap them and contain them, because I don't think that's a thing you need to do. But yeah, Katie says can confirm. You know, so Heartless gave his favorites. He says Melissa McCarthy for him or Kate McKinnon. I am going to not open the floor for discussion of that because that could be a very controversial discussion. I will say I loved Chris Hemsworth in that movie because he just made me laugh so much. He was such a dippy dip in that movie, and I love
Best himbo.
Yeah, totally. and he had fun with it, and you could tell he loved every minute of it. And then Cue Ball says Harold Ramis is a genius writer and director, and also Reitman is a genius behind the camera. Without both of those two, the films would both go to hell. I think he meant hell. It's
Yeah.
four asterisks. We're going to go with hell.
Well, I mean, to be fair, that's where Dan Aykroyd wanted to take the Ghostbusters in the first place, so it does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It actually checks out.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm glad they wrested that away from his hands, because he's very smart man. He's very funny, but maybe let's not let him write everything. Yeah.
It's funny because he channels so, and one of the if you were to pick Ray as your favorite character, his excitement and pure joy about the things that they discover make him just so much fun. He is so excited about the horrible things going on, because he's just, science excites him. Like, he just loves it. And I think with even Dan Aykroyd and his love with the occults and the supernatural and sight, all of those things, there's a genuine excitement, but it needs to be contained, because you can't translate that into a watchable film just because you have the excitement, which is where I think Harold Ramis really comes in and reins him in and is like, no, we got to make this watchable and digestible for other people. It can't just be Ray's movie. Like, we got to spread it out a little bit.
Yeah, not everybody's
And let me tell you about, if real ghost hunting, if they made an actual movie about it, everyone would leave, because it would just be people sitting around in the dark, occasionally asking a question and then going, what was that noise? And then someone going, that was my stomach growling. So, it would be very boring and not at all exciting. Katie and I are actually looking at booking one of the 3-hour investigations on the Queen Mary pretty soon. So we'll let you know how that goes when we do that.
There's a movie about that doesn't end well, just FYI.
I have been on just about every inch of that ship, and it will end fine, because there's nothing that bad on that ship that can hurt us. So it's okay. I am a pro on that ship. But yeah. So
just stay away from the Lollery Mansion. That's the only thing you don't want to go.
Yeah, I don't really want to go touch that. No, she did some really bad things. That lady was psychotic. That's why Kathy Bates was a perfect choice to play her, because who can play a better than that?
There are people on the ghost tours in New Orleans that will not get closer than across the street from that building.
I don't think I'd want to go in there. I went in an antique shop this past weekend and had to leave, so I don't think the Laurier Mansion would be a good spot for me. But yeah, that sounds really terrible. But okay, so some more minor characters. In the first movie and the second movie, we have the mayor. And in the second movie, he's running for governor. And we also have, I don't want to call him this, but his name Walter Peck Dickless.
Walter Peck Dickless, yes.
Walter Peck, yes.
It's true. This man has no dick.
This man has no dick.
This man has no dick. One of the greatest lines, probably not the best line for me to go around spouting when I was 9 years old, but it made me laugh a lot.
I actually love his, I'm going to miss him. That's one of my favorite lines. That whole scene is so good.
The delivery is just it's so good.
Chef's kiss.
But but they're great characters, right? They needed the antagonist. The mayor was kind of middle of the road. I mean, they're all great. The cardinal, everyone around them, who, whether they were against them, kind of half against them, they were just all such colorful characters, and they were such a picture of what New York characters are like for me, who's never been there, right? I'm like, oh, this is what New York is like. So it just, I don't know. I think everything about that, the supporting cast, especially the ones who returned into it, was kind of nice to see them again. When 2 came around, especially the mayor, and then Walter Peck, and even to see him in the newer movies, it was a little forced on us, but we didn't need to see him. But there could have been like a portrait of him on the wall or something. But in 1 and 2, it was, he was a good continuity from 1 to 2. But really, the standout in 2 was Peter Nichols, Janusz. Yes.
Janusz.
Was it Janusz? Was it
Janusz?
Janusz?
Janusz. And I'm not even going to try the last name, because I don't remember what it is, and I will destroy it. But he was so much fun. I just loved that character. He was at the art museum, obsessed with Dana. because I think, you know, he was trying to bring our buddy Vigo back from that painting. Why were the effects so much worse in number two?
Yeah, they're bad. They're
Like,
They're,
really,
yeah, two,
really
they are
bad.
bad
The
into.
slime on the
Oh,
Statue of Liberty at the end, and it just flies off. I'm like, oh no.
oof.
Yeah.
like they were like,
Yeah.
hey, rotoscope guys, let's do it. Let's
Yeah.
go.
No, it's bad. No, Peter Nichols, he's typically the best part of anything he's in. I'm a big Ally McBeal fan, and when he shows up in Ally McBeal, I was like, that show just instantly is elevated because he is just one of the best parts of that whole show. He is one of the best parts of this whole movie. He seems to, much like Rick Moranis, he seems to understand the assignment, and he works better in the over-the-top silliness, ridiculousness of character, of just character acting in general. I loved that one of his first lines is he's just walking by all the people doing like the little touch-ups, and he just goes over to everything you're doing is wrong. It's all wrong. It's bad, and then it walks away, like no context for it whatsoever.
Yeah.
He just walks away. He is so funny. He's a great kind of, really he exists to fill the Louis Tully role in the first one as somebody who was also obsessed with Dana. But I think he does a great job. Peter Nichols is just so funny. And there's no reason for me to ever say out loud, it's Vigo. But I'm pretty sure I say that once a month because it's like the most quotable line from there. It has no context whatsoever, but it is a brain worm that I have to get out sometimes. So
You will become the mother of the ruler of the world. No, I always thought it would be great to have Janusz and Serge from Beverly Hills Cop just in the same room.
The accents. Oh.
We needed to get those two together and make that happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love when they asked him, like, where are you from? He goes, Upper West Side.
Yeah.
And I didn't, like, I'm a kid. I don't even know what that means, but I thought it was hilarious at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
I'm local. Why,
Yeah.
what would you
From
think?
here.
Yeah.
So the thing with the movie, it went, now looking back, when I was a kid, I didn't get it, but looking back, you know, that the stereotype of New York is that New Yorkers are rude, New Yorkers are mean, that, you know, they're going to be rude to you. And they play on that by this slime underneath New York feeds on negative emotions. So you see New Yorkers being this rude, you know, and now I'm like, well, that's, I mean, first off, a river of slime underneath New York, that's just paranormal, like feeding off energy, and it's going to be like a paranormal manifestation. My ghost hunter brain is like, oh, come on, guys, that's not how it works. But I have to like let go of that and suspend my disbelief. What did you, I mean, suspending your disbelief and looking at the two stories, I know they're the same movie, but looking at the story points of how they, you know, they had the ghosts in the first movie. The library scene is my favorite ghost scene in the first movie. It's so good. It's so classic, and just the you know, that scene, I always love it. It scared the hell out of me.
Don't get her, Ray.
Yeah. But the second movie, even when I was, I would have been 13, 14, I just remember going, this is dumb. Like it just never, it's like they tried to outdo the first movie. Comparing,
I would disagree that they were even trying to outdo the first movie. It's like they didn't seem to have a real villain in mind. Because Vigo really doesn't pose any threat until this psychic energy starts to build to a certain point to where he's kind of gets activated again. Like he was just kind of, he was a little bit of like he had some psychic will, like he was, you know, working, pulling some strings in the background, but he didn't seem like a threat. But then your other threat is supposed to be this pink slime that, you know, reacts to whether you're happy or you're mad. And like, it doesn't really give you anything. It doesn't give you any tension. It doesn't give you anything to worry about. And then all of a sudden, both of those things come together to form the great evil. And the great evil never even really has a chance to do anything other than possess Ray.
Mhm.
Which, yeah. So Cue Ball asked a question, and he also redeemed pun. You're so punny for Lonnie. The question he asked is, which ghost left an impression on you? Was it Slimer or the Marshmallow Man? So Lonnie, if you can work a pun into that, I'll give you a minute. I'll go to Mikey first on that one.
I don't know. The Marshmallow Man's a pretty sticky situation.
Oh, you got it right away. I was gonna.
Knocked it out. Knocked
There
it
you
out.
go.
Perfect.
There you go.
They left a larger impression. I think the Marshmallow Man always had the larger impression on me. I always liked the concept of this big fluffy kaiju stomping through.
Yeah.
You know, Slimer was just gross. He was just disgusting. And I know they focused on him in the cartoon, kind of made him a character. And,
Mhm.
you know, he was kind of a Scooby-Doo-ish type of character. But like the Marshmallow Man, like ever since I was a kid, like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man was always
Well,
always
look,
the one that left the impression on me.
he's a sailor. You get this guy laid.
Yeah. He's in town for a few days.
He's in town for a few days. I like my villains roasted. Yeah, I think Stay Puft is definitely the superior villain for sure. And you know, I thought I wanted s'more of him, but given the latter films, no, he's better left squishy. There, those are all the puns I have. Those are all the puns I have. That's all I got.
I do like the little guys. They're pretty cute.
For like 2.5 seconds, and then I was like, I'm so over this. Anyway, that's a different.
I just like when they're like destroying each other through the pencil sharpener. Like it's the funniest thing ever, though. They're so dumb. That's what I like about them. They remind me of Chris Hemsworth from the All Lady Ghostbusters. They're just dumb. I love the look on Ray's face when he realizes what he has done, summoning the Marshmallow Man. That
Ray,
is
what
one
you
of
do?
What just popped in there?
just so good. But yeah, Slimer's pretty gross. Katie says, I cried when he died when I was a kid. I'm assuming she means the Marshmallow Man. It was devastating. I had no clue he was a terrorist. I was also 5. That's fair. That's fair, Katie.
It's a pretty gruesome death, to be honest. It's pretty violent.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't? He got marshmallow fluffed all over New York City, so
he became a microwaved marshmallow.
And technically, he's not a ghost, right? He's just a manifestation of Ray's thoughts. So he's not a ghost.
Yeah, true, but there would have been spectral energy that animated him.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay.
Let's not think too hard on it. We might find out.
Well, Gozer's godlike wizard ability summoned him as an avatar of destruction.
He's the destructor. Yeah. He's the destructor. Yeah.
Ray chose the form of the destroyer.
Whoa! I didn't choose anything. Did you
choose anything? Did you choose anything?
I'm telling you right now. If we just keep talking about Ghostbusters, we're just gonna do Ghostbusters for the rest of the night, guys.
Yeah,
that's all you can do.
Don't get me started because I'll just do the whole movie.
Yeah.
I was saying it along earlier when I was watching it. It's like, Ray, when someone asks you if you're a god,
you say yes.
Such a great.
Yeah, it was like that when we did Princess Bride last year. Like the whole time that we did Princess Bride last year, I just wanted to, because I can probably front to back quote that movie.
Yeah. I quote that.
And this one's probably Ghostbusters 1 is probably another one that I could quote.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at quoting movies, but not like clear through from like start to finish, and even catching like one-liners that aren't really that famous. But Ghostbusters and Princess Bride, even throwaway lines. I got you. Like, let's do it. Let's go.
Everybody has a third mortgage these days.
I would have that firehouse.
Such a good line. He didn't even try to negotiate.
The interest rate of 15%.
Ray looks sad a lot in that movie. Poor guy. Poor Ray. Ray. All right. I got lost by my reference page over here. It happens. It's hot, guys. It's very warm. so they have the climactic final battle scene in the first movie, which I think I wanted some. The second movie just disappointed in so many ways like that. Like, because in my head I compared to, even today was comparing the two as I watched number two, and I'm like, so I didn't make it all the way through because I really wanted to watch them both, and then I just, it was too hot to sit there and watch number two because I couldn't like get into it. But you know, I think everybody's defended their popcorn ratings pretty well. We all have really good points about why number two wasn't the best. But you know, we're gonna run out of time here in a few minutes. Lonnie, any final thoughts on these two movies for us?
I mean, final thought is that these two movies are still movies that I will always watch. And a lot of it has to do with the cast.
Mhm.
Even though I have my quibbles and my problems with the second movie, I'll still watch it. If it's on TV, I'll watch it. I'll quote it. It just is what it is. And they're favorites. And they've been favorites for a long time. And that's why we still get the continuation of the new movies, is because they were as wildly popular as they were. Even if in hindsight you can go back and say I don't like the second one as much. We do the same thing with Star Wars. We do the same thing with Star Trek movies. We do, every fandom has that. You just have you're like, okay, it's important, but it's not great.
Yeah, that's fair. How about for you, Mikey?
Um, I'll always look back at these movies as like uh, the one of the better parts of my childhood. You know, like just watching these movies over and over again, taking on road trips with me and stuff. You know, it'll always be that for me, and I'm glad that they're continuing it with the new ones. You know, I'm glad they decided to go with that. But as much as I love this story, I feel like I got more fulfillment out of the cartoon back in the day, you know, because I mean, they had a more of a more stories, more interesting stories to tell. But I'll always love these movies, and yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I loved Egon's hair in the cartoon. It was such a perfect
Mhm.
little spiral.
Okay.
So fancy. Derrick, what are your final thoughts on the
Yeah,
Ghostbusters
I
1 and
think
2?
oh, we lost Lonnie. As you can tell from the ratings, I think there's a pretty big disparity between one and two. And I think that gap even is wider than the 5 years that separates them. And you know, I think Ghostbusters is when I know we throw this word around a lot, but when we talk about classics and we talk about just cultural icons that have really never left the conversation, that's really hard to do over 40 years. Like it's hard to remain this relevant for that long. And I think the first one does that. And I think the second one, while it has some decent ideas and it does have some really good performances from some of its side characters, it definitely falls into that category of a standalone movie forced into a franchise, where that standalone movie is perfect in my eyes, and there's just no reason to continue. We just don't need to keep doing this. Jurassic Park is another great example where it's like we really just need Jurassic Park. Everything else after that has been a series of diminishing returns because there's just nothing like Jurassic Park. And I think Ghostbusters is very much like that, where while some are better than others, I think some capture that magic a little bit better. Ghostbusters really stands alone, and then there's kind of just everything else after it.
Yeah. And I think for me, like with being a cosplayer, I look at the fact that groups like, you know, LA Ghostbusters and all the different chapters of the Ghostbusters groups exist, and kids get so excited when they see them and they have their proton packs and stuff. And that is a 40-year-old movie that started it. And for little kids today to get so excited about it. And I know Katie, you know, she was telling me that like there was a Make-A-Wish kid and he wanted to meet the Ghostbusters. And so just stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's probably not from the new movies. It's because their parents did the right thing, brought them up right, and showed them the original movies. And you know, and I did that with my kids. And it's just one of those things where you look, for me, looking at my community and my culture of cosplay and what are the groups that exist and persist, and that is that is one of them. You know, you've got Marvel, you've got DC, you've got Star Wars, you've got Ghostbusters, you know, the ones that are like real organized and have that staying power. And it's just such a wonderful, nostalgic, and just a great classic film. Derrick, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me at DROK Comedy, DROK Comedy on, Threads, Instagram, Twitter, and Letterboxd. You can catch up on all my reviews at nerdbot.com. You can still follow me on Facebook. Just type in my name. I'll be there. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. And Mikey, where can everybody find you?
You can find me at GripC47 on all socials.
And Lonny, you joined back just in time.
I'm sorry, my computer completely just took a crap right there at the end. It's
the
fine.
heat.
I got it
It's
back.
the heat.
You're back just in time to tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, everyone can find me on Instagram and on TikTok as _Sith_abides. So the Sith abides.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, I do everything from prop making, costume making, and movies, and just general nerdery around there.
Excellent. You could. Katie says it was a ghost. You were taken out.
Yeah.
I'll be right.
This house is old enough. You never know.
You never know. And I am Jen. You can find me on Instagram, _as_Peggy Says, or over on Letterboxd, just Peggy Says. And you can see my over generous ratings, and sometimes very short and sometimes not so short. Reviews of movies. I also go to a lot of the AMC Screen Unseen, so I force myself to see movies I normally wouldn't go see, which is really fun, actually, and I've learned a lot about movies I should go see more often. So come see that. You can follow my cosplay adventures at California Avengers, our charity cosplay group. Katie's in there with me, Mike Manalo, who hosts on here as well. Tune in to our next show on Monday, Monday. Do I know my dates? I do. That is going to be Gremlins. Oh, I do love some Gremlins.
Another classic Christmas movie.
I was just gonna say it's a Christmas movie.
It is a Christmas
anybody
movie.
that says no.
No, it's 100% a Christmas movie. He was a Christmas gift. So anyway, Monday, Gremlins. Fantastic movie. Until then, I am your host, Jen. Be sure to follow us. Join our Discord to keep the conversation going. Subscribe to all our platforms at Nom Talk Network. And until then, have a nomerific day. Good night, everybody.
Good night, guys.